Good morning, this is Jack from Charting Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Tuesday, the 22nd of April. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some board I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own shots. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Okay, we've seen a decline here. We've gone slightly beyond the ideal trend lines that I was talking about, but really we're still very much in the zone, and I've done a post on it this morning talking about the ABC scenario. Now, do we have to do a C wave? We don't. And really, this was a decent rally. I'm 6 of one and half dozen of the other. I think in the normal course of events, we would see another leg up here. However, there is an awful lot of talk from Trump about firing Jerome Powell, and that would likely not be good. I think if he is going to do that, I think he's more likely to do that in a week or two. And I'm still optimistic about seeing this leg up. Why is this leg up important? Because it would give us an ABC flag, and it might well give us a very good indicator of where this flag is likely to end. And that really, as I was mentioning on my post this morning, could give us a nice looking entry into what potentially could be the short of the decade. Really, we could see it go down an awful lot, and I was projecting in terms of the head and shoulders I was looking at that we could see a move down of 1,500 handles. We could see a huge move here, because the thing is, big things are happening this year. Very, very big things. You know, we've got all the tariff trouble. We've got a potential looming crisis on U.S. Treasuries because the US, most of the holders are the US's former friends and allies who at the moment are not feeling too friendly or too allied. The US is withdrawing from global trade to a significant degree. And, you know, Japan walked away from the negotiations to make a deal over trade at the weekend, saying that actually, you know, that the administration had no idea what they were doing, and this was just effectively what they were trying to do was just extortion. And actually, that was an unreasonable view. I'm hoping that the Brits walk away this week for a similar reason. There's no upside to them to negotiating or making a deal, because actually what Trump's planning to put in as a minimum is ridiculously high. So and I think that's why Japan's walked away. I think that's why most of the serious trade partners who don't absolutely need the US probably will walk away because they'll just think, well, let's just do less trade with the US. And that's not an unreasonable thing to think. All right. So anyway, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves me hoping for a C wave up, and I think we might still see that. We had 15-minute buy signals at the lows yesterday. We haven't had any hourly buy signals. I was thinking we might see a retest overnight, and we didn't get that. But that's looking pretty decent. So we will see whether we get that. If we go down and do a retest of the low instead, we've got a potential another inflection point there. Although really overall, unless we see a big change in policy from the administration, which at the moment seems unlikely, then really I'm expecting to see more downside later this year, and we could be starting that sooner rather than later. NQ, exactly the same position. RTY, exactly the same position. YM, exactly the same position. We could form nice bull flags here now, which we really need to go down to this kind of level to deliver, but we haven't actually seen the C wave up yet, although it could be starting here. All right, DAX and STX have been a little different. We haven't seen the significant decline here, but then of course to the Europeans, it's less important who's in charge of the Fed. It's pretty important for the Americans. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. In terms of the big head and shoulders I drew in here, that's still formed pretty well. Would this be enough? It would. It's not. I mean, ideally, this would the right shoulder would continue forming for another 4 to 6 weeks. But would this be enough for it to be a decent looking head and shoulders? Yeah, it would. So we could go down directly from here, but I would like to see a higher high within the rally. We'll see whether we get it. This target down here in the 34,350 area, would that be a credible target? Yeah, bigger picture, it's a pretty decent looking Fibonacci target. It's a nice pattern target. And we've got this very big support here in the 3,500 area. So yeah, I really like it as a target. If the US administration messes up badly enough here, and I'm thinking they might, then yeah, I think we could do that, and I think we could do that this year. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture chart on the smaller picture, and let's have a look at that. So bear with me a moment. All right, looking at SPX first. Went beyond with these, all went beyond my minimum, but these were minimum trend lines. I needed to get down to this level so we can have a trend line that started from the low. So going a bit lower didn't really matter. This could be A, B, C. All we've got to do is that higher wave. There are two resistance trend lines to watch. I mentioned both of them in the post today. So I was talking about the declining resistance trend line and the ideal resistance trend line for the flag. All of them have one of those. We've got a 15-minute buy signal here. We're only halfway to that target. Could we form hourly buy signals? Potentially, but not on the futures, I don't think. Again, 15-minute buy signal on the Qs. We've got a very obvious resistance trend line here, and obviously would need to get over the declining resistance. 15-minute buy signal again on Dia. We could ideally this resistance trend line here. This actually could be hit while it was reaching the declining resistance, which is interesting. We'd need to go through the declining resistance considerably on SPX and Qs to get there. And looking at IWM, I've drawn it in. Again, we've got an ideal resistance trend line here, and it's pretty nice. They're all the resistance levels, trend lines are pretty nice. So 2 levels again, we'll see how that goes. We do have some other resistance on the way. We would have the daily middle bands, so we will see how it goes. But I think the chances of getting that next leg up are pretty good, and certainly if we're going to get a decent short entry here, that's what we need to see. DAX, we've got nice rally here, getting pretty close to the daily middle band. Nikkei, again, getting pretty close to the daily middle band. We will see. Okay, let's have a look at DX. Now, DX has reached a very interesting level here. It doesn't look that interesting on this chart. It just looks like a little underthrow of this support trend line here, and we've got a weak 60-minute buy signal fix. But if we have a look at the bigger picture chart, this gets a lot more interesting. So let's have a look at that. All right, I drew in this flag and said this was the obvious flag support if this was a bull flag forming. And when we've had a fail here, I called that as the obvious next big target. We just hit it. We hit it yesterday. Now, I was talking about this on my bigger picture post, and I was talking about this as a potential topping pattern if we see a breakdown. But of course, it is a bull flag. 70% of the time, these break up, not necessarily with this kind of backdrop. From a trading, tariff, etc., administration point of view, that is probably leaning towards this to a breakdown. But at the very minimum, we have just come down and we have touched the support trend line on a pretty decent looking bull flag. We may well find some support here. If we do see a move down into this main megaphone support, which is down in the 96 area, that could be a bullish underthrow. We will see, although I do have an option of running a trend line from there too, which might get us most of the way there. But I'm watching this area with interest. This is one of the key support trend lines on DX. And I have to say the sentiment on DX is so bearish today that I'm really wondering about a bounce here. Do we have any positive divergence? We do not, but it wouldn't be hard to set some up with a rally and a retest on both the RSI 14 and the RSI 5. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at ZB. And ZB, again, wondering about an A, B, C. Or maybe start from there, because actually I think was that a lower low? No, it was a higher low. We could definitely see some more upside in here. Don't need to, and honestly, there's not much reason for this for bonds to be going up here. We do have a weak 60-minute buy signal fixed. We'll see how that develops. On CL, we're still back testing after the breakup from the IHS. We've got some pretty decent resistance up here in the 64 area. This effectively is backtesting broken support, because we had that low there at 63.57 that I was talking about for weeks as a retest, and obviously we tested that and went straight through it. We could be backtesting that. We could fail here, in which case we'd be heading back into a retest this low here in the 54.5 area, or we could see a move up and go towards this IHS target in the 70 area. I'm keeping an open mind on that, but if we are going to see that C up on equities, that would certainly help this along for oil going higher. NG, we break below this trend line here, and I got to say this is looking pretty bearish to me. So it could still have some legs in terms of the upside scenario, but I've got to say the downside scenario is likely dominating at this stage. Watching this with interest to see whether this will see a rally of any kind, but I'm thinking we're probably breaking support and going down, because when the economy slows, which it's likely doing, then we see a slowdown in the demand for energy as well. All right, let's have a look at GC. GC has gone up through my trend line here and 3,500. As I said, on the big picture, I don't have any resistance trend lines here, and I'm thinking that if we are going to see a bonds crisis, and if we are going to see the US dollar get significantly less important as a reserve currency, then in that case, we have got probably more upside on gold, which is very much acting as a flight to safety destination here. We could see a lot higher here. I don't have any credible trend lines that I'm watching. SI, think lean towards a move to 38 next. That is what I would like to see. So we'll see whether we get that. But we haven't managed to get beyond this high here first. But I'm liking that to the upside. Palladium, we've got a little head and shoulders here, which is broken down with a target in the 905 area, and at the moment it's looking pretty good to reach that. On platinum. Platinum, nice looking double top here. That hasn't broken down yet, but if it does, we'd be looking at a target down at about the 930 area. On HG, this remarkably really is still going higher, but I suppose equities haven't broken down yet either. Bigger picture, I'm expecting to see a lot more downside here, but we've been seeing a vigorous rally after this strong decline. I'm skeptical about this continuing much longer, but I haven't really got an obvious setup for this to reverse right here. Looking at the currencies, not an awful lot to see. USD/JPY has gone down. I've got a 60-minute buy signal trying to fix there at the moment. I am wondering if we might see a bit of a dollar rally here. We have hit a very, very important level here. KC, we are forming potential little head and shoulders here. This could be reversing back down. I'm watching this with interest, but even if we did make this, even if this breaks down and makes target, that wouldn't actually get us below the right shoulder low, which is here in the 340 area. But I am wondering about this possible head and shoulders forming. On sugar, as I said, I've got a disturbingly good-looking downside scenario that could halve the price from the current level. So if it wasn't for that, I'd be wondering about a low forming here, but I wouldn't have anything particularly strong to go on the upside. CC could still be a little short-term bear flag forming here, but this is a very nice looking double bottom, and it could deliver. On wheat, looks like a bear flag, which may be starting to break down towards a retest of this low here in the 531.5 area. On corn, looks like a bull flag forming. On soy, looks like a bull flag forming. On cotton, keeping an open mind on direction. Lumber, still got a potential little level top here, but bigger picture, I'm leaning lower. Live cattle hasn't quite reached the double bottom target here, so I'm still leaning towards it reaching that. On HE, HE is getting up towards a potential inverted head and shoulder neckline. We could be starting a decline to form a right shoulder. Ideally, that right shoulder would get us down into about the 92 area. And this one, when you asked me to have a look at soybean oil, this is the soybean oil chart. Nothing particularly definitive here at the moment. We could be forming a short-term high, looking at a possible breakdown, little double top with a breakdown going towards the 47.25 area. Nothing really bigger picture that I'm seeing here at the moment, but I haven't run the daily chart yet. We shall see. All right, great. In that case, let's have a look at, yeah, my pleasure. I'll leave it up on the chart here. Now I've done the chart, we might as well just add it to the ones that I look at every morning for the time being. And the volume seems to be decent, so maybe I'll add it longer term. Okay, having a look at questions, of which there are none. Just a quick review on ES. Obviously, the markets, there's a narrative coming through this morning on the news about, Trump is attacking the Fed, and, that's sending the markets down. Honestly, I'm thinking this might just be the B wave with the C wave of the rally coming up. We've got some nice 15-minute buy signals. I had hoped for more. I'd been hoping for some hourly buy signals on the equity indices, but I'm still thinking we may be starting that C wave up, and that would be the obvious thing to do. Obviously, we're very subject to news here, and I am thinking that Trump will probably try and fire Jerome Powell, but I'm thinking he'll probably be thinking about how to do that this week and maybe next week, and we'll try that afterwards. That gives us a window for a rally, and I'm still pretty optimistic we may see that. We shall see. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. I will catch you guys again tomorrow. Cheers.